The World Health Organization estimates that around 466 million people worldwide, out of the total population of 7.7 billion, are hearing impaired. From this figure, 432 million are adults, while 34 million are children. Hearing loss may result from genetic causes, complications at childbirth, certain infectious diseases, chronic ear infection, the use of particular drugs, exposure to excessive noise, and aging, among others. In Ghana, 211,712 out of the total population of about 29 million are living with the condition, according to the Ghana Statistical Service report of 2018.
When you look at the studies conducted in Ghana on the causes of hearing impairment, you find that more than 50% of them, of the causes, are due to acquired causes. That is, the hearing causes are acquired after birth. Say around the age, immediately after birth, or around the age of 2 years, when it's determined after birth, they are acquired. So we are suspecting that, why do we have so many schools for the deaf in this country? So Dr. Hammerman from Germany was now appointed to the KCC, Kumasi Center for Collaboration Research in Tropical Medicine. He was in charge, and we drove through all the schools for the deaf, and we look at all the cases of congenital deafness, and we extended congenital deafness to any child who is born deaf from 0 to 2 years. We look at it from 0 to 2 years, and we took the blood samples from all the schools for the deaf. And after the samples were sent to analysis to Germany, they found that most of the children who were congenitally deaf, some of them with causes, unknown causes, the gene connexin 26, which was found at Adamrobe, was also seen in the children in those schools. But the gene connexin 26, the type of gene connexin 26, which was seen in those schools, in the children, and the one at Adamrobe, they were still slightly different from the variants or the genes which are seen in other parts of the world.
At Adamrobe, a community near Eburi in the eastern region, the latest records have identified 15 hearing impaired cases out of the 2,000 indigents in the village. That figure doubles the global average according to the World Health Organization projections, which estimates that 5 out of every 1,000 children worldwide are either born with hearing loss or acquired soon after birth. This year, scientists at the University of Ghana have identified a gene linked to the inherited deafness in the country.
Together with one of our partners from the University of Cape Town, we've been interested in trying to understand some of the mechanisms that contribute to this hearing impairment problem. And we've been looking at it from a genetics point of view. There's something called a founder effect. That means if one person had this genetic change or genetic signature that causes hearing impairment, that person becomes like a founder. And then when the person, has children, then the trait is transferred to them, and then they also have children and transferred to them, and they marry and go to other places, and then they carry the thing with them, and that's how it spreads. But originally, it started from one person, and that person is called the founder. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. So that's how rare genetic changes or defects could be spread, because usually it happens in one person, and then that person passes it on to their offspring. And then once there's intermarriages and all that, then it starts to spread.
The findings also indicated a 1.4% frequency rate among 145 healthy Ghanaians who were screened randomly, suggesting that among every 145 Ghanaians, 2 are likely to carry the defective gene that can cause or pass on to their children.
What we can do now is that we are developing a test, a simple test to detect this genetic mutation or genetic signature, so that children, when they are born, you could screen them to find out whether they have this particular gene. And if they are identified to have this gene, that means they are at risk of having hearing impairment. So you can start interventions early. These days, there's enough technology that you can actually intervene and minimize the risk or the effect of this type of genetic. So what we are planning to do is to tell them that this can be screened for, and that let's try to make it available to the people and create awareness that this is available, that people can screen for it. And we think that people would opt voluntarily to screen for it, just like they do for sickness.
If you have life, you have hope. All of a man of the end of his life. A living dog is better than a dead lion. If you have life, you're okay. Listen. If with patience, you inherit your promise. North and south, east and west, promotion never comes but from the Lord. He makes all things beautiful in His time.
Adamrobe basically is known to us as a village which has a lot of people with hearing impairment. I don't really remember why that concentration, but whatever it is, they have quite a number of people, a larger population, or the section of their population who don't speak or hear. And specifically to why it is happening, the work done by Professor Dr. Adamrobe, our ENT boss for a long time in Kumasi, showed that there's a deficiency. They had a genetic situation where the production of a particular protein in their body was deficient, leading to that inherited hearing impairment. So that is the basis of the hearing impairment we find in that community. So I'm sure you would have realized that there are people, those who, if they marry amongst themselves, the hearing impaired, they give birth to children who are hearing impaired. But if you mix them, then they usually don't have hearing impaired because we call it a recessive trait, so that it has to be 2 people with half of those things to give birth to somebody who cannot hear. As to the second point of the children at birth being able to talk, but then down the line lose their hearing, only if there's a convulsion, sometimes children who develop convulsive problems or meningitis or even cerebral malaria can suffer some hearing impairment as a consequence of the infection they suffered. So in the event of cerebral malaria, if the hearing impairment occurs, usually it's permanent. In the event of meningitis, if hearing impairment occurs, is permanent. So those are the problems. As to the extent of hearing impairment, that is something we can address. Let's say the hearing impairment grades from mild to profound. So for people with like moderately severe, from mild, moderate to severe, around the severe, there are hearing aids which can be used to improve the hearing, and nothing really happens after that. So basically, they are more or less normal people. If it comes to the profound hearing loss, depending on the structure of the loss, there are hearing opportunities which can be offered to them in the form of cochlear implantation, which will help them, especially very early, to hear. But having said that, it depends on that what type of problem that occurs to cause the hearing impairment. And for meningitis, it's a little difficult because of the changes that go on in the ear because of the disease. But having said that, anybody, as long as the diagnosis is made early and the cause is amenable to treatment, we can help them. Well, we think children start even hearing in the tummy in the womb of the mother. But when the child is born, they usually react to the surrounding noises. So let's say when the door is shut, they will stutter. It's agreed that part of it is a reflex reaction, but it's still stimulated by the hearing. Over time, the child will start responding to the voice of the mother. So whenever if he's crying and the mother starts to sing or talk, the child will quieten. Or around 3 months thereabout, if the mother or somebody the child recognizes speaks, the child can turn the head. When they can support, they can turn the head. So these are things, usually, if you are aware, you pick them. That you pick from your child, the newborn at all. But when the door shut, it's just lying down quietly. Either crying and the mother is singing or talking, no response, except maybe she can see you from behind. So those are the things. And as it goes, all these other things build up. Then when they can hear your voice, you can call them, or when you cuckoo to them, and then they'll quieten. Those things are there. But Kolebu for the last couple of years has been doing newborn screening. And I think Trust Hospital too does it also recently. And what it means basically that when the child is born, after the discharge, most of them periodically come to the hearing assessment center. And the hearing of the child we do a screening test. So once the test is done, those who have issues, we follow them up. But those, if you pass, it's a pass or fail, or pass or refer. We don't like to say fail. Well, if you fail, everybody will be not happy. But refer means there's a problem that has to be sorted. So it's pass or refer. So those who pass go into the community. Those who are referred, then we have to do further tests. Most of the time, I can't remember the percentage, but quite a number of them turned out to be fine. Only that there was a small hitch which we already most of the time sort out. The law or Ghana's regulations stipulate that anybody at any entry point in school. So when you go to creche, you go to class 1, you go to class 1. So your first point of entry, you have to assess your hearing. You go to GHS1, you have to assess your hearing. You go to SHS1, you have to assess your hearing. You go to first year university, you have to assess your hearing. This by, in quotes, regulations, it has to be done. But who does that? So in our own small way, we are doing, at least we following world practice, and our unit wants to work to world standards.